Voyager's Chapter 11 bankruptcy process has led us to auction because multiple bids were received, and this auction is intended to determine who actually has the highest and best bid. Now, the auction is not over yet, so we don't have a final determination here, but we do have some press releases to run through that highlight who could potentially be in the lead throughout this auction process. So in today's video, we're going to run through who is believed to be in the lead, and what their bid actually is in terms of a dollar amount. We'll get into that in just a moment, folks. Right after I remind you to sign up for Moomoo to get up to 15 free stocks, each worth up to $2,000. Just sign up, open an account and deposit some money to try out the platform, and you can get those free stocks. And now let's go ahead and get right into the Voyager news. As a reminder for any of you who had cash, I mean USD, on the Voyager, former US dollars. You are able to withdraw your USD ever since August 11th, so be sure to do that if you haven't already. Also be sure to go to Stretto and check out the information related to filing a claim. The deadline to file a claim is October 3rd, so you still have some time. If you haven't, do this already. Now, what you need to be sure of is that you followed these steps. You should have received an email that outlined what Voyager says you hold in your account. If you did not receive this email, go ahead and type in your email address and click submit, and they will send this information to you. Notes that if your scheduled claim information is correct, you do not need to file a claim and no further action is required. So there are essentially two actions that you can take right now. If you have USD on the platform, you are able to withdraw it, and be sure that you have checked this email that outlines what Voyager says you have in your account to be sure if it's correct. If it's not correct, make sure you follow those steps to file a claim. So those are the two actions that you can take right now. And now let's get into the more recent news. So starting on September 13th, Voyager has actually been in auction. So this has been going on for about a week now. And as this has been going on, we've seen various press releases like this one alluding to FX being in the lead to buy Voyager Digital's assets. Now in this specific article, they actually outline both FTX and another company, Wave Financial Ad, digital asset investment firm, being two of the top bidders, but just recently we saw new headlines coming out stating that Binance and FTX have both been about $50 million for Voyager's assets. Okay, so right now give me your raw reactions down in the comments below. What is your response to this? At first glance, $50 million, it sounds like Binance and FX are both around this range. What are your thoughts? So this headline has been all over the media, but it all started according to sources who spoke to the Wall Street Journal. So let's actually jump over to the Wall Street Journal now and see what they had to say. They do state that Binance and FTX make the top bids for bankrupt lender Voyager, and noted that both made bids near $50 million. They note that Voyager's market cap was $3.9 billion back in 2020. So obviously that previous valuation of $3.9 billion back in 2021 has been completely slashed with this $50 million amount. So I want to hear your thoughts on that specifically, but I also want to hear from you. If we saw an equivalent bid from both Binance and FTX, which one would you prefer that they go with? The Wall Street Journal notes that FX and Binance have made the leading bids for the assets of Voyager Digital. Now again, this is according to people familiar with the matter. We don't have any specific names here, and they do note that neither bid has been accepted yet because the auction is still ongoing. Again, they note that the current bid from Binance is about $50 million and do state that it's slightly higher than the competing bid from FTX, though we can assume that it's probably pretty close. And so maybe you're wondering, is since the last pre-release when we were hearing about FTX and Wave Financial, what's going on with some of those other players out there outside of FTX and Binance? Well, aside from the commentary on FTX and Binance, we also know that other bidders are included. Some of these are Wave Financial. Again, this is the crypto investment manager that we saw in the previous press release, but they also note a new one trading platform across Tower. They do say that it is possible as well that a separate bidder could come in with a new competing bid, and previously we expected to know. These results at least by September 29th, because that was the scheduled date for the sale hearing. But unfortunately, folks, that has changed. It has been pushed out. Here is a court document outlining a notice of the rescheduled sale and disclosure statement hearing date. So again, the sale hearing was supposed to be on September 29th, but going forward this has been pushed out. If we take a look at the date that has actually been pushed out to, they note that the rescheduled date in time for the sale hearing and the disclosure statement hearing will be on October 19th. So October 19th is still about a month away. So what will he actually do at this time during that? Essentially, this auction is going to continue until they can really determine the highest and best bid. We might continue to see some of these articles that try to highlight who's in the lead, but how much should we actually rely on those, after all the Voyager Official Committee of Unsecured Creditors put out this tweets about a lot of information that floating around in the media about the auction. They note that we should not assume that what we read is true because those involved in the auction are bound by confidentiality and no one is authorized to disclose anything that has occurred. So in terms of these press releases coming out claiming who is currently in the lead for this auction process, we really just have to take them with a grain of salt because the Voyager Committee of Unsecured Creditors. This straight up telling us not to believe everything that's swirling around out there because those involved in the auction are bound by confidentiality. So are they really leaking this information or is it completely made up? We can't really know for certain. Just be sure to take it all with a grain of salt because that original tweets came out around the time we were hearing that FTX was in the lead to buy Voyager, and hearing in that Wave Financial was another competitor. There was a lot swirling around in the media at that time. And then again, we saw another headline regarding Binance and FTX making the top bids and this time with an actual dollar amount of $50 million. And the same night that article was sent out by the Wall Street Journal, the Voyager Official Committee of Unsecured Creditors quotes tweeted that earlier tweet I shared with you and stated as a reminder, essentially referring it to this new news release about this $50 million amount that perhaps we should not assume to be true. So what do you think?